all for the culture.
Welcome to People and Culture, where pop culture meets belonging. I'm your host, Zaida Sherman, a longtime culture and belonging professional and pop culture junkie. Each episode, I will be joined by experts, and we will discuss what it means to belong in different spaces and at different pop cultural moments.
All for the culture.
Hello, and thank you so much for being with me. We have a very special episode, episode 3 of People and Culture, where pop culture meets belonging. Today, I have a very distinguished guest. This is possibly my most serious interview with an expert, and I am going to give a quick rundown for the listeners, for the viewers, of who you are and why it's so amazing that you're here. If that's okay with you?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay. So today I'm joined by Dr. Gabriele Vajente, the Deputy Head of System Science and Engineering for the LIGO Laboratory at Caltech. Some quick highlights. You, in your work at LIGO, observe and detect gravitational wave signals from black holes and neutron stars. You have your PhD in experimental physics, specifically from Scuola Normale Superiore in Pisa, and you happen to be a Nobel Prize winner. So I'm going to turn it over to you and allow you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into our conversation about the mysteries of the universe.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, first of all, I would like to say I am not personally a Nobel Prize winner, but the group of people, my laboratory won a Nobel Prize a few years ago. But yeah, let's go back. So my name is Gabriele Vajente, as you said. I'm the Deputy Chief Engineer. I like this title better because it's way shorter than the full one.
Sure.
So I'm the Deputy Chief Engineer of the LIGO Laboratory. So LIGO is a national laboratory based here in the United States, and we have designed and built a new kind of telescopes, new kind of instrument for astronomy to detect gravitational waves. These are ripples in space and time that are created, as you said, by the collision of big stuff out there, like two black holes or two neutron stars that collide. And they generate this kind of ripples in space and time. They think like when you throw a stone in a pond, right? You have those little waves on the surface. So we are sitting on the edge and we're trying to look at those little waves and figure out what happened out there in the universe. Very new field in astronomy. We are celebrating 10 years since the very first detection of gravitational waves in September this year. So it's a very exciting new field. As for me, I was born and raised in Italy. I studied there at Scuola Normale Superiore in Pisa. Everybody knows Pisa because of the Leaning Tower, but there's also fairly good schools there. And about 13 years ago, I decided I wanted to see some other parts of the world, and I moved to California. And now I've been working in this kind of field, designing and building instruments for astronomy for quite a while. So I'm a scientist by education, and you could say that I am a professional scientist, and if you want, also a professional astronomer, because what I do at the end is to find new ways to study the universe.
Fantastic. I also know that you're an ultra runner.
That is true. In my free time, I like to spend a lot of hours out in the mountains, running up and down mountains on trails. So that's my way of, have fun during the weekend or when I'm not working.
Very good. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for letting me convince you to be here. You and I have had a handful of personal conversations about all matters of the universe, especially where astronomy differs from astrology. And you know that I love pop culture. And for whatever reason, some obvious, some not, the questions of the universe, including astronomy and astrology, seem to fascinate people. And it seems to have been on our minds since the dawn of time. So I figured, let's get into some of it today. We can't tackle everything, but you know that I asked listeners to send in their questions for you. We have a pretty good mix. It's kind of wild. Some of these, we're just going to see how it goes. But first, I did want you to humor us. And I know you're not an astrologer. And I know you're not an aspiring astrologer, but I just thought it would be fun to share your daily rundown, your daily horoscope, and get your preliminary reactions to it. Is that all right with you?
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. Can you give the listeners a sense of your familiarity with the CoStar app?
I have installed it twice and deleted once, and I think I have to say up front that being a scientist, I don't really believe in astrology. I don't follow it. I understand that a lot of people are interested, and I find a lot of aspects of it funny and entertaining, but I don't really think there's any real reality to it. So that's just my disclaimer. But I'm open to be humored, as you said. So let's go with it.
All right. So I had you enter your information in the CoStar app because it is, I would say, the single most popular app when it comes to astrology. You can go there to find out all about your chart and explore other entertaining aspects like your daily horoscope. So I'm going to read you yours. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you feel. Let's do it. So you are a Virgo sun sign. Your moon sign is Libra, which is interesting. That's my rising sign. And your rising sign is a Cancer. CoStar says that today you're afraid to love because you think it will make you vulnerable. But what if being open is what allows you to find the people who accept and cherish you? Give yourself a chance to be seen. What do you have to lose? This month, you're ready to build up your own solid structure. This is a commendable move for someone who needs consistency and stability in their emotional life. Break up with your image. And last but not least, the broader focus of your life during this time is to let up some of your negativity and pessimism and use your energy to overcome real practical challenges standing in your way. Something that you've created is changing. This might not be a bad thing. Thoughts?
Okay. Well, so I guess my first question to you is, what does this have to do with astrology, beside the fact it's coming from an astrology app? I mean, this is something that my therapist could have told me, right?
Some people use CoStar like therapy. So
Yeah, so we can be dangerous because therapy is a really serious thing. But so as you were reading this, my reaction is okay. Those are all first. If there's any actual suggestion, those are good suggestion. But then, is there anything actually actionable there? Is this telling me something that is happening to me this month, or something that I should do this month to
it
improve my
says
life?
break up with your image.
What does it even
What
mean?
does it mean? Does it mean anything? Does it resonate with you on a personal level?
No, why should it mean? What does it mean? So, every time I see something, and I don't want to appear to be, very negative, but a key of all of astrology is to keep everything vague enough that you can read anything you want in it.
Mm.
And that's all right. If you need inspiration, that's great. But this isn't, to me, doesn't sound any different from the inspirational posters that you have, the little kitten hanging there or something like that. You can hang in the wall, right?
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay. Just
and even the most, I think the last sentence was something is going to change this month in my life, right? And
yeah,
that
and
could
this might
be,
not be a bad thing.
yeah, sure, but that's always true, right? Life is continuous change, so there's always something changing, and change is not always bad. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. So, things are vague enough that I can pick something that resonates with me and pick something that doesn't resonate with me, and we're all happy.
So it sounds like you won't be checking CoStar from here on out.
I don't think so, but I'm not saying that what it's written there is bad, but it's I don't understand how is that coming from the stars, right? How are the stars talking to me through that?
So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you specifically is because I think in popular culture or just in society at large, we don't really understand the differentiation between astronomy and astrology and how and why it comes together or diverges. So can you give us a quick overview in your professional
Yeah.
experience?
So the main difference is that astronomy is a science. So as a science, astronomy is focused on studying our universe, observing our universe, stars, what is out there, galaxies, nebulae, all the planets, all of that, and try to understand how they work. And so based on the observation of what we see, try to figure out the laws of the universe, how the universe works, understand the very basics of nature and physics, right? And that's something that it's a natural thing. Humans are curious, so we see something, we want to understand how it works.
Yeah.
The night sky, if you want, has always been one of the most fascinating things you can imagine. You're out in a dark place, you look up in the sky during the night. There's a lot of dots, there's a lot of stars, there's a lot of stuff going on, things are moving, seems very complicated. So it's natural to try to make sense of that.
Yeah.
So astrology, on the other hand, is not a science. It's not based on any evidence. Every time somebody tried to figure out if astrology was real, if there was anything real or solid in the predictions of astrology, things failed miserably. There were many, many experiments over the decades, of the centuries, to try to prove, essentially, to answer the question, is astrology able to predict anything useful?
Yes.
To give you anything useful? And the answer is no.
Oh.
So there's no way that astrology was never able to predict anything. So what is astrology? It's a belief, if you want, that the stars influence, they do influence our life. And so by looking at the stars, we can learn something about us, about the future, or something along that way. So nobody can predict the future, so we know that. And the stars can't really influence us. There's no evidence that that happened. There's not even any way to explain how that would work. So what is the relation between the two things? Well, maybe 2000 years ago, they were almost the same thing, because people looking up at the stars, at the universe, at the night, they were at the same time trying to figure out how things work. And it's very natural to see this thing and to imagine that it has some influence on our life. But then as science, from the 1600s and ahead, when science started to become a more solid thing, that actually we learned how to understand the universe, it was clear that astrology was a sum of beliefs. So there's nothing real in the way the zodiac signs can influence us, where the planets are can influence us. So that's my quick take.
Dr. Vajente, you're coming in hot. I know a lot of
I
listeners
know.
are going to be heartbroken by this.
Well, so, the other thing is that what is astrology based on? So let me ask you a question. In what zodiac sign are we now?
I have no idea.
Okay,
Truthfully,
so
I don't know.
we can probably go to, Google and see what zodiac sign are we in. So according to where are we? So according to Google, we are, the current date is July 29th. Yes, fall within the Leo zodiac sign, so the lion.
Okay.
Typically range from July 23rd to August 22nd. So what does it mean that we are in this particular sign? Do you know?
I think some people may say we're in us being in Leo means that the attributes of Leo are prevalent and thriving. So Leos are known for what? I'm trying to choose my words carefully and not be too blunt. Leos are known for being very showy, very flashy. They like a lot of attention. I'll keep it at that.
Okay, great. So this is not exactly what I meant with my question, but this is great. So
Okay.
Leo is a constellation in the sky, right? It's a group of stars in the sky that somebody decided that they look like a lion, so they call it Leo. Yes. So do you know what is the origin of the zodiac constellation as we know that, as we use them today?
No.
So they date back to the ancient Greeks. So they were the first one that started recording the observation of the sky. And their goal was to make sense of the patterns of stars out there. And so they saw in the patterns of stars different things, so a lion or a scorpion or all the other constellations, right? So we are using what is called, what are today called the Western constellations, because it's part of our Western culture. So they were first put together by the ancient Greeks, and then through the Romans and so on. A lot of the Arab area also had a lot of influence. So that's a mixture of all of those ancient culture that came to the constellation that we have now.
Okay.
So then we decided that as you said, the characteristic of somebody who was born in the sign of Leo are whatever you said, because when this person was born, the sun was in that particular constellation, right?
Yeah.
So let me, if I may, share here something. So let's look at Leo. So this is a representation of the constellation of the Lion. Regulus is the main star there. The interesting thing is that this is our Western culture says that this group of star is a lion, and because they're a lion, then there's all these ideas how they should behave. But according to, for example, this Ojibwe tribe, which is some of the first people on the Great Lake areas, this is actually a great panther with a curly tail, right? Instead, according to the Romanian, this is a horse. Or if you go to the Korean tradition, this is an emperor, right? Or maybe if you go to, what do we have here? To the Sardinian people, this is a sickle. So who's right here? Why do we decide, since we're talking about culture here, right? Why do we decide that our Western interpretation is the one that should tell us what is the characteristic of these people, or the people born in this particular constellation?
It's a fair question. It's a fair question.
Okay, good. Then other thing, so now then we are in the constellation of Leo because the sun is supposed to be in the constellation of Leo. That's how the sun moves around the ecliptic, which is just a big circle in the sky. 12 constellation, 12 months, roughly speaking, 1 month in each constellation. So according to astrologists, now we are in the constellation of the Lion because the sun is in the constellation of Lion. Okay. Let me show you a simulation of the night sky now, right? So this is an app called Stellarium. You can download it free. It's pretty good. So this shows you how the sky would look like if you were out there. So there's some nice field and some of the golden constellations there. So I can just go and find the sun. And look at this. The sun is actually in the constellation of Cancer. So right now, the sun is in Cancer, not in the Lion. So we are, if we were to be precise, Lion is here. It's pretty far away, right? So it's almost a month wrong. So what do you say? What do you think?
Thankfully, for the listeners and for the viewers, this is not the first time we've had this conversation. Every time, though, it's very shocking and very concerning because it means essentially that a lot of us who are astrology enthusiasts are living a lie. And I think that's hard to swallow.
Well, yeah, because if you imagine, even if you believe that where the sun is in the sky, so what constellation the sun is, if you believe that that has some influence on your life, then at least you should pick the right constellation at the right time. So now we are, if you believe that, the sun is in the constellation of Cancer. So this should be the sign that we are now, which is, I imagine, very different from Lion. I'm not an expert, but I imagine that people, Cancer and Lion seems very different to me.
It's a little different, yeah.
So that's, and the reason, again, of this mistake, if you want, is that astrology is still using way to predict where the sun and the planets are that were invented or found out by an ancient population, ancient Greeks mostly. So at the time, 2000 or plus years ago, the Greeks were trying to make sense of the universe, so they would found way to calculate where the sun and where the planet would be every single night. And that was important to keep track of time and just for the curiosity of understanding how it works. It turns out that astrology never bothered to update all those calculations and all those things, while astronomers did. Why do you need to update? Well, because you know that the Earth is round, right? It's
I do.
axis, and then the Earth is orbiting around the sun. But the axis around which the Earth spins is not perpendicular to the plane of the orbit. It's actually tilted. And because of this tilt, this axis is preceding. That's the technical term, meaning that over 26,000 years, it will describe a whole cone, like moving around, meaning that wherever the axis is pointing now is not where it was pointing 2,000 years ago or 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. It takes 25,000 years for this axis to go back full circle, meaning that the position, the relative position of the sun, the constellation changes over time. So that's why now we astrologists are still using methods and calculation to find where the suns, the planets are that are wrong by 2,000 years. So, you can understand that why me being a scientist, I have a hard time believing that anything coming out of astrology could make any sense.
This is a lot. It's a lot to take in every time. I think this will be challenging for a lot of listeners, but I think what has carried me through astrology in all of these years is I don't want to admit this. I haven't been asking too many questions. I've just accepted it and had fun with it, engaged with the horoscope, engaged with the charts, and see what happened. For me personally, I don't hold too much weight to it in the last several years because I don't know, I just saw some discrepancies. We'll say that. But for those out there who still want to engage, we're not trying to burst your bubble entirely. We're here to ask questions. We're here to get answers. And these are things that people think about and have thought about for a long time. It is what it is. So at this time, I'm going to transition into the listeners' questions for you. And there's only a couple in here that touch on astrology. So I think you are well prepared to fully dive in here. The first one, what is a supermoon and does it affect human behavior?
Okay, so let me show you this.
Okay.
So what is a supermoon? So you know that the moon is the only natural satellite that Earth has. So it's a big ball of rock that orbits around Earth. So almost precisely the orbit of the moon is a circle, but it's not quite a circle. It's an ellipse, actually. So sometimes the moon gets closer and sometimes the moon gets farther away from Earth. So you can imagine that when the moon gets closer to Earth, it looks bigger. And when it's farther away, it looks larger. And this is just a consequence of the fact that the orbit of the moon is not a perfect circle. It's kind of squeezed, right? So sometimes you have a full moon, so the sun is illuminating completely the moon when the moon is closer, what is called the perigee, so the closest position to Earth. In that case, the moon is 14% larger and about 30% bigger than when the moon is at the farther away. So that's what we call a supermoon, when the moon is larger. Now, it's 14% larger, so it's not a great amount. If you were to be out in one any day, you have a full moon, and you ask anyone, including myself or an astronomer, is that a super moon, is that a mini moon? We wouldn't be able to tell us that by just looking at it. Just a little bit bigger. So that's what a super moon is. Does it influence humans? No, it doesn't influence humans because the moon is just a little bit closer. So it will still create tides and all of that, but pretty much the same way. And there's no evidence that the moon or the planets or any object out there can actually influence people directly. Of course, it can influence people if you look at the moon and say, oh, that's beautiful. I want to learn how to take a photo of that moon, or I want to paint that moon. Or if you convince yourself that the moon is actually influencing you, then your conviction will change your life, probably.
Probably, definitely. Okay, so the supermoon is just bigger and brighter.
Yeah, it's just a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter. So
But the brightness is significant. 30% brighter, that's legit.
30% brighter is a little bit it's significant, but I have a light shining my face, right? So now it's 100%. This is now 30%, yeah, 30% dimmer. Can you see any difference?
Not really.
Not really, right? So it's
Mhm.
hard. Even 30% isn't that much.
Hmm. So why does the supermoon get so much hype?
Well, it often gets hype when, the news media, they don't have any other thing more important to discuss with. So it's a simple way, it's a simple phenomenon that it has a very catchy name, but doesn't really change much. Every time there's a super moon, you never really hear somebody said, "Oh, the super moon was impressive." People that are impressed by the super moon because the first time they see a full moon, which is pretty cool to see. But if you never pay attention, then the news will tell you, "Oh, there's a super moon." You go out, yes, there's a big moon, but it's always that big.
I can think of some beautiful moons that I've seen, but I've never thought about the difference between like in terms of a percentage, how much brighter or how much bigger it looks.
Mhm.
It looks really cool. So,
Yeah, the full moon is beautiful, even if it's a mini moon or a micro
okay.
moon, as they call it.
Okay. Are you ready for the next question?
I'm absolutely ready.
I'll mix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll go to this one. An 11-year-old, and remember, these are from the listeners. An 11-year-old just told me it rains diamonds on Neptune. If this is true, what are they? And does everything sparkle and shine? Or are they everywhere so it just looks like there's gravel on the ground?
So it's probably true that diamonds could rain in Neptune, but let's set the scene for a moment. So
Yeah.
Neptune is a very big planet. It's about, I think, 13 times the mass of Earth. It's what is called an ice giant or a gas giant. So Neptune does not have a solid surface made of rock or dirt like Earth, the Moon, Mars, etc. It's a big big ball of gas. So the atmosphere gets denser and denser and denser and denser. And at some point, it's so dense that it's like being at the bottom of the ocean. Pressure is much higher than that. So there isn't a real surface. So in some sense, there's no ground or surface where something can rain.
Mm.
But at the same time, Neptune is made of gas, as I said, so mostly hydrogen, helium, and some methane. So methane is a molecule made of carbon and hydrogen. So the pressure, we think that the pressure about several 4,000 kilometers under the surface of Neptune, we think that the pressure is so high that would, destroy the molecule of methane, and carbon will be compacted so much to make diamond. Diamond is made of carbon, right?
Mhm.
So that's why people say, if even rocks under pressure, even carbon under pressure, can become a diamond. That's the idea. So it's very likely that there will be, we know there's a lot of carbon there. It's probably there will be these pellets of diamond raining down. But the pressure down there is so high that it would be, I mean, we couldn't survive there. No human could survive there.
Yeah. So a little disappointing
A
for
little bit
the
disappointed. There's a lot of diamonds there, but probably it's not really um, raining. Although, a diamond rain seems more like hail to me. That
Yeah, that's true.
could be, I wouldn't want to be in one of those.
Also sounds very painful.
Yes, very.
Next up, does the moon really sync women's menstrual cycles?
I am not expert on this, but I don't think so because the moon is, it's always been there. If the moon were to sync the menstrual cycle, then every single woman on Earth will have the same menstrual cycle, which I think is not the case. I haven't asked everyone, but for my observation so far, that's not the case. So here's one example that we have an objective evidence that this doesn't happen.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on.
Is Mercury really in retrograde? What is this all about?
Well, what does it mean for Mercury to be in retrograde? Do you know?
I know that eh, objects in the solar system are not appearing as normally. And so it's supposed to have some sort of impact on our communication and on our technological devices.
That's interesting. So here again is a great example of how this interpretation is based on Greek mythology. So Mercury was the messenger of the gods in Greek mythology and in Roman mythology. So as you said, if something goes different than usual with Mercury, then communication and technology is somehow in trouble. So is Mercury retrograde now? I believe it is. So I'll show you this little chart here. So this is maybe a little bit complicated, but let's look at this. So you see, as you move from the bottom to the top, right, there's all the months. So this is for this year. So you go from January, February, all the way to July, almost August now, right now. Then look at the big, thick blue line. That's the sun. It's just telling you that every day at noon, for example, the sun is in a position in the sky. And so the sun, as you know, the Earth is orbiting around the sun, but we see the sun moving in the sky. And so it's moving always in one direction from left to right. All the other lines there are the different planets. So you can see, for example, Mercury and Venus, they're what is called inner planets. So they orbit around the sun on an orbit which is smaller than the one of Earth. So they can never get too far as we see them because their orbit is just inner. And so you see that the orange line is Mercury. So in sometimes, including the end of July and the beginning of August, it appears as if Mercury is moving in the opposite direction in the sky than the sun. So if every day you would compare the position of Mercury in this case with the fixed star, as we say, you will see that it's moving in the right direction, like the sun every day, but sometimes it goes backward. Why is that happening? It's because the Mercury is going behind the sun and the orbit is Mercury is moving in the opposite direction in its orbit with respect to Earth, and so it appears, because of perspective, to go back. If you were on Mercury, you would not notice anything different because Mercury is always going in the same circle, same orbit, same direction around the sun. It's just a matter of perspective. So why is this important? Because, you know, originally, all the ancient population that were trying to figure out how the sky works, now they figured that there were a lot of stars that were fixed. Sometimes we call them the fixed stars. And then there were planets. Do you know what's the origin of the name planet? That's from the Greek, which means erratic, because they saw that there were some dots in the sky that did not move like all the stars. They moved in a way that was complicated, that was erratic. And so that was if you want, the origin of ancient astronomy, trying to figure that out. You can imagine that if you try to look for patterns, for some regularity in the motion of the planets, then you see that most of them move almost always the same direction, but sometimes one appears to go backward. Once you understand that all the planets go around the sun, you understand that this is not so complicated to explain. There's nothing strange going on. But if you were to believe that the Earth is the center of the universe and everything, including the sun and the planets, are circling around Earth, then it takes a lot of complication to your model of the universe to explain why Mercury and Venus should go back at some point. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. What I got from this is that Mercury is just doing its normal orbit. It goes in front, it goes behind the sun, and then back, and then forth, and then back, and then forth. And this isn't anything too out of the ordinary.
No, it happens. As you can see here, every time the orange curve bends to the left, that happens 1, 2, 3 times this year. That's just because, roughly speaking, Mercury goes around the sun 3 times in a year because its orbit is smaller, so Mercury moves quicker around the sun. And so every time the Mercury appears to go behind the sun, it's just going the other direction. It's a matter of perspective.
Have you personally ever experienced any communication breakdowns or tech breakdowns during Mercury retrograde?
I wouldn't know because I never pay attention when Mercury is retrograde or not. So did I have communication breakdown and technology breakdown? Yes, plenty in my life. Related to Mercury doing something different, or Mercury moving in the sky in the other direction, I would have a hard time believing that's the case, but I don't have any evidence.
Okay, fair enough. I do want to go to another question, which I didn't prepare you for, so this is just a random one.
Yeah.
Someone wants to know because they know that you're an ultra runner, how does running under the stars influence you?
Well, it's running under the stars or with a full moon in the night is a combination of peaceful and challenging and almost a complete different experience because it's very, very peaceful because you're typically out there in the mountains. It's only you. You can maybe see some little headlamps of other people running far away from you, but it's very quiet, silent. The stars are up there, so it can be very, very peaceful, and time can, feel like it passes in a different way. It's also difficult because typically you get there after the whole day that you're running, so you're already tired, and being alone in the dark can play tricks. You can, every little noise in the bushes is a bear or a mountain lion or a dat. So it's very intense. How can I say?
Okay, so you can agree that there are some experiences of intensity depending on how we're experiencing the moon and the stars.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And running on a full moon, it's beautiful because the moon has enough light to just cast this silver light everywhere in the landscape. Everything looks very different. So it's beautiful, but that doesn't mean, that the stars are influencing me. It's the way I relate with the nature, with the environment, the way I look at the stars and the moon that can change depending on the circumstances.
Okay, let's see. Next up, okay, this is an astrology question, so take it with a grain of salt. Do you have any advice for dealing with Scorpios?
Not with Scorpios. I have a lot of advice dealing with Scorpions. Don't bother
That's not
them.
what
If
we're
you see one, go away. Try not to step on them because they're animals that are, they deserve to be left alone and alive. And I imagine being bitten by a scorpion can be pretty painful. Was that
Yes,
a question? That was not a
that
question?
wasn't the question, but I
Okay.
think according to this listener, they're having some challenges with Scorpios who they feel can, pinch them, pierce them in the wrong way. So maybe that's a different podcast. We'll see. I'm going to get into two final questions and then we'll close. So the next one is probably on most people's mind. I'm sure you have been asked at every single event, every single talk you've given. Can or does life exist outside of the solar system?
Yeah, that's a very common question. So we we don't know. So we don't have any evidence that life does exist or can exist outside of Earth, honestly. The only place where we are sure there is life is here on Earth. Now, do we have hints that life could happen elsewhere? Yes, we have a lot, because consider there are billions of stars only in our galaxy. We know now that almost every star has planets around it. And we know that life as we know it here on Earth need a planet which is not too close, but not too far from the sun, because if you're too close, it's too hot. Too hot. If you're too far, it's too cold. So we need to have a planet in the right place. But we think that there are probably still hundreds of tens of millions of stars with planets that could have the right condition for lives. So it would be really surprising if we were the only planet out of many, many millions where being there, the right condition, life existed. Why would we be any special, all the history of humankind was moving farther away from the idea that we are really special. First, Earth was the center of the universe. Then the sun was the center of the universe. Then our galaxy was the only galaxy in the universe. Now we know that none of that is true. We're just one small planet, one small star, and one small galaxy in the universe. So there are so many planets out there where there could be life. So Do I think personally that there is life out there? I think so. I think there's life. I also think that there is intelligent life out there because why not? If a planet can have, sustain life, life can evolve in a planet, why wouldn't it at some point get to a place where intelligent beings are there? Then from there saying, do I believe that aliens are coming here and visiting Earth? Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm not going that far. We don't have any evidence that that ever happened. But are there other intelligent beings out there? I'm fairly sure there are.
Okay, related. If you could live on any planet or universe or dimension, where would you want to live?
Well, again, maybe there's so many planets out there that have beautiful views and landscape and beautiful mountains and oceans. Who knows? But um, if I were to pick a place in our solar system where I would like to maybe not live because it would be hard to live there, but at least visit or see, I guess this could be being on Europa, which is one of
Wow.
the moons around Jupiter. And the reason I would like to do that is because you would be sitting on the surface of the planet and you would see Jupiter rising in the night sky, and it would be about 30 times the size of the moon.
Oh my God.
Imagine the view that you would have from this gigantic planet just rising on this every day or every night out there. Of course, the problem is that life, it's hard to live there. It's very cold. There's no atmosphere, no water to drink, no air to breathe, but could be a fun place to visit. It's
Wow.
pretty far.
Well, having seen Jupiter and Saturn in a proper telescope, I can kind of imagine what that would be like
Yeah,
to see it up close. That would be incredible.
that would be incredible. Yes.
All right. Well, last question from the listeners, from the viewers. What's the most fun fact that you've learned about the universe?
The thing that it's most interesting for me about the universe is that it keeps surprising us. Every time we find a new way to look at the universe, to study the universe, it's always something new. There's always something that we did not expect before. There's always some new surprise. So uh, a lot of things are amazing. Thinking that there are billions of galaxies out there and so many stars, so many planets, and seeing how the universe behaves. And also, if you want, a surprising thing is that how we can understand a lot about what's happening in the universe. Because why would we, small humans here on planet Earth, even be able to understand how the universe works? Some famous scientist, I don't remember who, said that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. But it's surprising that we humans, with our little brain, can actually understand a lot about the universe. We can look up at the stars and make sense of what we see and try and build our ideas and improve our ideas that explain how things work. I found that really, really incredible.
So there's always going to be something. There's always more to discover, more to understand. But I don't think we can resist the temptation to try to understand these things.
Yeah, I agree. Humans are curious. Maybe curiosity is the most human thing ever. We want to learn more, we want to understand more. We are attracted by things we don't know, we don't understand. Humans were if you think most animals, they're very territorial. They wouldn't move unless they have to. Humans, in very, few millennia, just ended up going anywhere on Earth, just probably because they were curious to see what was there.
Well, Dr. Vajente, you've been extremely generous. You have demystified a lot for us all. You've given us a lot to think about. Perhaps we have some disappointments to reconcile with in our understandings of astrology, but as I said, maybe that's a different episode. I do want to know, I am curious from your perspective, are there any takeaways as we wrestle with these questions of our existence and what is out there and how does it all come together? Do you have any tips or
Ah,
suggestions
I
or
wish.
takeaways?
I wish I had any tips, but I think it's all natural to want to understand who we are, where are we going, what am I supposed to do here, what is a good way to spend my life. And I don't think there's an answer that works for anyone. Certainly, I don't think there's an answer out in the star, because why would that answer be the same for everyone? But then at the end of the day, the thing that I want to say about astrology or all of this is that if that's what it takes to inspire you to learn more about yourself or learn more about something new or to get some inspiration or some ideas, that's great. Whatever works to just give you a way to explore more of yourself, because that's what's most important at the end.
I love that. My takeaways, I'm specifically thinking of the image you showed of different astrologies coming from different cultures throughout the world. And obviously, we have our different beliefs, we have our different worldviews. Science is very clear on what is and what isn't. So I think as we wrestle with who we are, where we belong in this system or in others, it's helpful to educate yourself when possible and have fun and explore, ask the questions, talk to an astrologer, talk to an astronomer, and see where it takes you. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing your expertise with me, with us, and listeners. You've got a lot to think about, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Oh, where can people find you if you want to be found?
People can get in touch with me if you're interested about what we do here with LIGO, with our laboratory. You can find information if you search for LIGO or ligo.org, and or caltech.edu. You will find my contact information. You can write me an email. Try to reply as soon as possible. And you can also find me if you're interested in learning more about what I do with science outreach or see what I do when I run. You can find me on Instagram.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.